God's blessings and welcome to the devotions for Lutheran Saints in Ministry called Stay With Us. It's going to be a busy week of celebrations in our churches. On Monday, the 25th, was the day of Saint James the Apostle. On Thursday, on the 28th, we celebrate musicians. We celebrate Bach and Schütz and Handel, all of them important writers of music and hymnody for the church. And on Friday, the 29th, we remember Mary and Martha and Lazarus, dear friends of Jesus in Bethany, through whom much of the gospel was made known in their stories and in their life with Jesus. And we also celebrate King Olaf of Norway, a martyr of the church from the early 11th century. It is indeed a late week in July. We're almost at August, and we're still considering the work of Saint Benedict. There's a story that Gregory the Great tells of Benedict and a couple of monks. One of them is Placidus and the other one is Maurus. It seems to be that somehow through inattention or maybe a slip, Placidus has fallen into the river and is being carried away by the current. Well, Benedict, realizing what has happened, calls to Brother Maurus, a strong and healthy lad, and says, "Our brother Placidus has fallen in the lake. Run out there and get him." And Maurus, being a good monk, obedient to the core, runs up to the water's edge and miraculously runs out across the waters, grabs Placidus by the scruff of his hair and drags him back to shore and goes back to meet with his master. Benedict bows deeply and thanks him for having been able to be obedient. Well, of course, this is one of the legends of Benedict. But the point of the parable, or the little story, the way that Gregory tells it, the point of the story is that those who obey are capable of more than they think they are actually capable of doing. Well, often we know this. We know this, that when it comes time to ride a bicycle, it's sometimes the best medicine for a young soul who's trying to learn to ride, to be led down the sidewalk, to be told to pedal, look forward, and don't pay attention to my footsteps. Just look forward and pedal lightly, and then let go of the bike. It's only after the kid tries to second guess what you have said to them that they actually start looking back, pulling the handle in the direction of their head and crashing mercilessly onto the sidewalk. Sometimes it is absolutely important to tend to the simple gift of obedience. Most oddly, the word obedience comes from a Latin word that means, very simply, to listen. Well, maybe it's true that you know you have been truly and absolutely listened to if the other person is doing something different from what they were doing before and have been influenced by what it is that you have said. Well, maybe in normal relationships where we don't have the right to order somebody around, we can look at the matter much in the way of to listen to be listened to have been listened to. Something that we can then cheer on and be glad about, because certainly we have been heard. You see, obedience is always good for somebody else. Just as Placidus, who has been, rescued by the obedience of Maurus, who, had he listened to his own heart and followed his own judgment, would never have ran on the water. Well, maybe you and I would be in a much worse place if Jesus had not been obedient even unto death, as Philippians 2 recalls it. It's often important that we actually listen. Listen, and listen deeply. Listen to what is going on in a situation. And maybe as we see something around us that, frankly, we would have done very, very, very differently. Not our way. But we've valued the other person, or come to value the other person, by letting them do it the way they will. And maybe if we weren't close to them by the time that they did this, maybe by watching them do it in a different way, we'd learn something about them, about ourselves, and about the matter that they were doing. Maybe that is something that is important. Maybe being obedient is to be humble as well. And after all, these stories all come from St. Benedict's treatise on humility. It is certainly true that those who serve are the most apt to listen, and listen hard to what is going on. If you are a dog lover, you know that your dog, even though they might not do what you want them to do, always closely listen to what you do and what you say, how you hold yourself, what your face is saying, and even what your inner energies are saying to the dog is going on inside of you. Sometimes maybe that is why we love dogs. We feel totally and utterly listened to, yet they sit at our feet in humility. So maybe, just maybe, we need to listen to all people in what they do, while taking a step back from our own need to speak, on our own need to be first. There's something to be learned from somebody who somehow treats you unfairly. If they cut in line in front of you at the grocery store, maybe there is something to be learned from the way they did that. Maybe there's something to be learned from your own insides that talks to you, saying, well, that wasn't right. I should have done something about that. All these are things that are connected to obedience, because obedience is an attitude. And above all, it's an attitude of listening. Listening not just to what is being said or asked of you, but listening to the depth of another person's being. If you want to read an example of this, I refer you to the 4th chapter of the Gospel of St. John, the interaction between Jesus and the woman at the well. She was listened to, and she knew she had been listened to and heard at a level that no one else had ever been attentive to her. She even says that to the people of Samaria. This man told me everything about me. He listened so well. Could he be the Messiah? As this week goes on, maybe this is a good week for us to look around and engage others with the conviction that we want to know what's in their heart, to truly listen to them. And maybe, just maybe, gain new insight about them, about humanity, and about ourselves. And above all, about the Holy Spirit that truly has listened to him from our hearts as it spoke from theirs.